Hello, and welcome to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. I'm your host, Tori Rarick, PharmD and holistic healer. Each episode features a candid conversation about how connecting with the cannabis plant has enhanced an individual's wellness journey. Here to honor the plant, talk about healing, and have fun. In this episode, you'll hear our guest Lotus speak about how cannabis connects her to flow state. She describes receiving recipes for product formulation through prayer, and she gives the answer to the question she gets asked most frequently about cannabis. Listen to this episode to align with an ancestrally attuned person who works with the cannabis plant for the mind, body, and spirit. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, I'm speaking with my friend Lotus. We met through the High Vibe community, which we can shout out in a moment. But let me tell you about Lotus. So Lotus LaLoba is a mystic practitioner who holds space for women of color to eradicate generational trauma and create a new legacy of limitless self-love, which is the medium she actually uses is beauty. I have to ask you real quick before we get on with your accolades. What is your sun, rising, and moon sign?
Oh, so I am a Sun Scorpio. My moon is in Pisces and Gemini rising.
I always ask people that, and then I'm like, actually, that means nothing to me. What does that mean to you?
Oh, well, for me, it's my Scorpio sun really anchors me because between the Gemini and the Pisces, I can be very incisive. But thank God for that Scorpio energy of like, no, we're going to do this, and you're going to be okay. So it balances me out. Yeah, keeps me a little light and airy. Because Scorpio is also like it could be a very dark, heavy sign. So the air of Gemini, the dreaminess of Pisces, it helps to keep me in harmony with life.
That makes sense. Okay, I love it. Yeah, wow, that could be very fluid. But good for you. You make it work.
Thank you.
So let me tell you a little bit more about Lotus. Lotus has 10 plus years of spiritual exploration and continues to curate events, speaking engagements, host a mental and spiritual wellness podcast, LobaLand The Podcast, and create her spiritual beauty line, which now consists of magical fragrances that bring abundance, love, clarity, and her edible skincare line. Like, what isn't she doing? So all of her efforts support her cultivation of a mystic-driven global community through the multi-level exploration of Black women wellness. So fabulous. Welcome, Lotus.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
So yeah, we connected through High Vibe cannabis community.
Eunice is the best, period. I absolutely adore her.
Shout out to Eunice.
Yes, she's everything.
So check out High Vibe. We'll leave that in the show notes if you are kind of curious. Let's get right into it. I want to get your take as this beautiful mystic on a card pull. I have my Oracle deck here. It's the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck, and it's a highly inspired deck, if you know what I mean. And let's tune in by drawing a card, which is like what I normally do in my everyday to get going on something. What about you?
Yes, I do that. And then I'll also like just kind of like talk to my ancestors at the altar and just be like, just please be with me, guide me, keep me grounded.
Yes, totally. Shout out Mother Cannabis, please guide us, keep us grounded through this conversation and whatever needs to come through, may it. So I'm going to pull a card, and they're very simple concepts, and I'd love to just have you draw a connection between the card message, the theme, and how that has been paired with cannabis, or how cannabis has helped you understand that card. For example, tonight for you, the card is flow. We have a beautiful water droplet here. We're getting a little bit sacral chakra vibes as well as throat center, but let me know how cannabis has helped you understand flow.
First off, that's just like so funny because one of my main products is called Flow. So I'm just like, wow, like my mind is just like, that's so crazy. I was just talking about flow state. Well, I mean, that's the main thing, right? Cannabis allows me to get into flow state. It's so much more easier for me if I'm using cannabis to connect back to my inner wisdom, connect back to Mother Nature herself, and just allow her to kind of like live through me, like be that vessel that I was designed to be, right? It's like, I don't know, something about cannabis allows you to let go of all these restrictions that we place on ourselves every day and just feel and just be and not be overwhelmed by what you're feeling either. You know that you're safe in where you're at.
Yes.
And that in itself is just beautiful for me.
Yes, I'm resonating so much. I'm such a rigid person. It's the Capricorn sun in me. And I just like have forgotten how to play. But with cannabis, like that help gets me into this flow state, literally, of like just being able to focus on the present.
Yes.
So tell us about your flow product.
Okay, so I suffered from seasonal depression, social anxiety. It was like really hard for me to connect with people and just be in spaces. Like I would literally shut down physically, and it became debilitating. I went the more medical route, tried different medications, and I just felt like I felt very disconnected. I felt like I couldn't feel my emotions, and that was it's not a feeling that I want for myself or for anybody, to be numb to what you're feeling, right? Because we're here to be alive. We're here to experience and feel. So I was looking at ways to holistically manage the anxiety and depression. And I prayed one night. Almost all of my recipes for any of my products come through prayer. Like thank the ancestors, thank God. And I was just like, I want to be able to manage on my own. I woke up in the middle of the night. I had like this entire list of like different essential oils, solar water. Like it was like I didn't know what it was. And then in the morning, I got everything. I got all the essential oils, everything like that. And I realized that it was a mist. And when I sprayed it, I just instantly felt better. I felt like, okay, I can get through this. I did some more research. Every single essential oil and flow is clinically proven to help decrease the feelings of depression and relieve anxiety. And I was just kind of like,
how is that like it's within you?
Everything is within us. All we have to do is like ask and be open to receiving whatever that answer was. Because I also just could have slept through that dream and been like, this is weird. But I knew like, no, this is like I'm seeing lavender. I'm seeing like flashes of different like herbs and things like that. And then I started using that every morning, spraying my hands, taking 3 deep inhales, exhales. Didn't realize I was doing breath work until like I did more studying of like, it was a very intuitive act. And then next thing you know it, my girlfriends are like, you smell so good. What is that? I'm like, oh, it's just like this. I don't know, helping me get into flow. They're like, oh my God, call this flow. And then it was born. I was like, okay.
And it's viral. That's amazing. Yeah. Cool. Very cool. And so what was your original perception of cannabis, maybe growing up or that sort of thing? And how has it shifted?
Okay. So it was a very dual experience, right? Because my mom was very hardcore, like no drugs. There wasn't even like alcohol in the house. So I don't even drink alcohol first. So like I've always just like, okay, just stay away from drugs. Everything is drugs, just stay away from it. But I would also keep that like my grandparents like would wear like cannabis flowers on their shirts and like things. I was like, okay, I'm trying to understand like what's going on. It wasn't until I got into college that I had my first cannabis experience. It was energetically it was weird, right? It was also like not like the best quality of cannabis, right? Like especially on the East Coast of New York City, like it's really hard to know what it is that you're using, unfortunately. It wasn't until later on, I think I took a trip to California and I was on the hunt for CBD. I had known that like CBD was really good for me and my arthritis and the diagnosis of lupus that I had. I was looking for holistic ways to manage that as well. And when I went to California, my boyfriend and I just were like, we were blown away by the knowledge. We were blown away by the different types, the way that they affect the body. I became like obsessed because I'm like, this plant is the only plant that can clothe you, it can feed you, it can house you, it can heal you. I'm like, why are we not talking more about this?
Yeah.
And it was a mix. It was, growing up as a Black person, you're just always told to stay away from those things because unfortunately we are discriminated against and we can end up in jail for these insane periods of time over like a seed that's not even actually bloomed yet, So I think that was what it was for me at first, but then changing my environment and seeing how accepting it was there and also how healing it was and how normalized it was. We went to LA. I was like, oh my God, like what am I doing? Why am I living such a stressful life for no reason?
Mm-hmm. Wow. So then you were like in at that point, you started getting curious and
Yes.
experimenting, and that's so great. So how does the plant serve you?
In so many ways, on a spiritual level, it's allowed me to connect deeper. I can, smoke something right before my meditation and like really be in the space and really quiet the noise in my mind that would normally be like rushing around. I use like a sativa blend before working out to give me that extra boost of energy because otherwise I honestly probably wouldn't work out as much. It
Sure.
like helps me to be highly functional. I also use it like in my business, in my skincare line. I'm now starting to incorporate CBD into like the face oil and the face mask, and I'm also just seeing how it's just this miracle plant.
It's the ticket.
I want to eat it, everything. I'm like, as much as I can include it into my life, that's how I am with cannabis everywhere, as much as I
Mm-hmm.
can have it.
And what about specifically your lupus? Have you noticed anything with that?
100%. Yes. People who don't know lupus is an autoimmune disease. It's essentially like your body attacks itself. It thinks that it's a virus, which is extremely painful, and it helps with the chronic pain. Like there were times where I was taking medication that was like no young person should be taking. I was like diagnosed with lupus at like 19. These were things that could have complicated me having children in the future, and this was like
Right.
my only option. It wasn't until I found cannabis that there, in CBD in particular, my girlfriend in California, her name is Hannah. She has open apothecary. I talk about her all the time because I think it's a blend of the healing properties in cannabis and her love and intention in the products that
Mm-hmm.
she makes. I've been using CBD every single day for almost 3 or 4 years now, and I've been able to manage my flares. I'll still have maybe like one or two a year, but it used to be where I was like almost paralyzed in
Wow.
bed because the pain was overwhelming. And cannabis, like, it just gave
Incredible.
me my body back, my freedom back.
Back in the body. That's amazing.
Yes.
And so, in turn, you've shared a little bit about incorporating the plant into your formulations, but how do you serve the plant? How do you give back to the plant?
I think the best thing that I do is I do my best to educate myself as much as I can on the plant. And I definitely make sure that as I'm educating myself and I'm learning new things, that I change my language, I change my energy towards the plant. I also do my best to advocate and to educate other people and like even destigmatize it for like my mom and for my uncle and for people who kind of like who have tried it before because they definitely grew up in prime
Right.
time, you know. But just doing my best to remain educated on what's happening on a legal level, but also like understanding the properties of cannabis and doing whatever it is that I can to give back, even in my small way of like trying my best to wear like recycled clothes and like not to litter and like these very small acts, but they're very intentional. Like I just want to be able to give back to Mother Earth because Mother Earth has given
Yes.
me such a
It's a
wonderful
very
healing medicine.
it can connect you with nature in ways that you wouldn't imagine, especially like being in New
Yeah.
York City or something like that. I mean, it just opens you up. And then when you're open to the natural world and this beautiful piece of God-given, plant,
Yes.
like it's all from there. It's all uphill from there.
Yes. It really is.
And so, what question do you get asked the most often? Because I think that that's exactly what happens. Is you're saying you're educating yourself and then sharing that with others. When you start to know a little bit about cannabis, people start looking at you. They start asking you questions. So, what's the question you get asked the most often, and what's your answer to that?
The question I get asked the most often, and that's simply because I am dealing with a lot of older people when it does come to cannabis, is like, okay, is this going to get me high? Because I can't be
Mhm.
high. I'm just like, what? Like, there are so many factors to this one plant. Like, not everything is psychoeffective. Like,
Right.
that's probably the main question of like, I don't want. I think there's still that stigma, that fear of like, what if I'm walking in the street and like I have CBD in me and they decide that like, I'm
Right.
a drug mule. It gets so crazy in their
Hmm.
mind. And I'm just like, okay, let's just start off with the basics. Like,
Yes.
here's how it will benefit you. And no, you will not get high, but that's also not a negative thing either,
Mhm.
right? Being
Yeah.
elevated is okay.
I think that's a really interesting conversation we need to have more. Like, who's upset about people feeling good? So,
Right.
yeah, I totally feel that. Yeah. Have you found that you have to do education around your own line now that you're adding CBD? Is it like family and friends that are asking you that, or is it mostly the customer?
It's mostly me in this moment. I'm actually like reaching out to Eunice and a few other of my cannabis that just are so insightful to help me with this, because I want to make sure that I am one, using the plant the correct way, and that the benefits are going to be given to my consumers. Because when I did my own research about like CBD use and beauty products, even down to like the packaging could like completely make it obsolete, and there are actually no healing benefits
Mm,
for it. You're just putting the name on it because people want to buy CBD. And I didn't want to be one of those beauty brands. I really wanted to make sure that if you've got my product and it says CBD in it, that you're getting CBD. Like, and it's
completely.
actually going to help you with your skin.
Oh, that's like, I don't want to say it's rare in this industry, but you gotta find the gems, and that sounds so fabulous. I know that you put in work on every level, and so you're gonna have to check out Lotus's line. Which, speaking of, what cannabis centered resources do you recommend? Do you share anything specifically or point someone in that direction?
I definitely point people to High Vibe at this point,
Mhm.
because I mean, just being a part of the higher up community is, my mind is always just blown at just how many incredible beings operate so well off of cannabis. And that's something that I didn't realize I needed to see more of. Were people who were living full lives and actively using cannabis in their lives, and like running businesses and being incredible parents and partners and creators. I needed to see that. And I feel like other people also need to see that as well. There's also my sweetheart, Kaylin, and she's renaming her business right now, but it was called Green Thumb EQ. And
Yeah.
it's literally a company that allows you to learn the basics of cannabis 101. So that's growing and evolving. She's another one. It's also Samantha Martins, who's also a higher up. She's a advocate and an incredible yogi. She teaches me so much about cannabis and just how to like pray over it, how to um, speak to it and ask for something from that session that you're having. So those are like my top three.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Um, let's talk a little bit about your own projects just before we go. So, what do you have going on right now?
Well, currently in real time, I am doing a spring sale for my skincare line and my Mystic Fragrance line. But I have so many great things lined up, especially when it comes to the podcast, the LobaLand Podcast. I will be doing, I started this new segment called Conscious Conversations, which is now Cosmic Conversations, because we're just elevating in this beautiful experience. And in April, in particular, it's dedicated to cannabis. So I have like incredible people who are going to be on there speaking about cannabis and education, speaking about cannabis and advocacy, speaking about cannabis and spirituality, and even cannabis and culture. You
Mm,
know, because I feel like it fits into like almost every facet of your life. And I have some incredible women coming on to just break down and give us gems. So
that's
I'm
fair.
really excited about what's coming up next podcast for sure. That's probably my biggest project to date. Yeah.
Incredible. Cannot wait to hear that. Are most of them High Vibe members? I'm curious.
Honestly, I think that they all are except for one, and I referred her, and I'm just like, look, girl,
It's where it's
you're
at.
part of the community.
Yeah.
Yes. So hopefully by the time the episode airs, she will be a higher up. But I also do emotional freedom technique healing with Danny, who's also a higher up. I'm telling y'all, this please go look at High Vibe. It's just so cool. I'm one of her practitioners and teachers on her platform called Highlights, which is a conscious cannabis community for wellness. And I teach every Monday how to tap out negative energy and low vibes and
Mm,
tap in positivity and rewrite our brain to serve us better. So I do that as well. So those are my two main things right
so that's such a wonderful modality. And what is your observation with, tapping while consuming cannabis and tapping without?
I feel like both are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Both are powerful. EFT on its own, I feel like, especially for Black and brown people, our lives are already stressful, right? You can just turn on the news, go on social media, and like something horrific has happened to someone who looks like us, especially identifying as a woman. It's exhausting, and you can feel like your healing is always like a dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
EFT like eliminates that in my experience. It allows me to have deep transformational healing without having to relive all of this emotional trauma, without having to like kind of go back to a space that I really want to get away from. And a lot of healing, unfortunately, you have to go back. It's kind of a part of the process, but not everyone can handle that. And I feel like, especially for Black and brown bodies, we just want something a little easier, more ease in our lives. And EFT has brought that to me, has brought that to my students. In particular with the EFT class and cannabis, I find that the healing seems to, you can kind of see the energy shift in the body. From when we first start tapping out like the negative statements, things like that, and then we connect with the plant, and then we tap in that positive, you can see it resonate with them more. You can see them diving in deeper. You can see them also feeling safe enough to allow whatever's rising up in them to rise up and be released. So I feel like either way you slice it, you're good.
I think that's such a powerful pairing, because so often when you're kind of like finding your rhythm with cannabis, that anxiety is what people fear. And so if you knew EFT and could perform that, if you get a little too paranoid or what have you, to bring you down and ground you again, I think that's groundbreaking.
I'm so excited. I can't believe I get to teach this.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, check her out in highlights. That's Danny's platform, but we will link everything. So where else can people find you? Instagram, Clubhouse, where are you at?
Okay, so I am on Instagram, even though I have been telling my wolves of my community, like I'm trying my best to get off of that platform because it's getting super messy and it's just not vibing with my energy. But I am on Clubhouse, same name, Lotus LaLoba. I try to keep everything linked together. I do have a YouTube. I don't post often, but there are some fun videos on there for you to check out. It's all based off like beauty magic, so like a better understanding how beauty can be of service to you and allow you to create the life that you want to have. And the podcast, mainly 2 episodes every week, like clockwork. Yes.
And what about your email list? Because I know you set that up.
Oh my God, yes, the Wolf Gang. Yes, Wolf Gang, gang. I love my wolves. So I send out weekly emails. And they give like insights on like, spiritual well-being, creative well-being. It also lets you know like what's coming up for me, any classes that you can be a part of. I also love shouting out the incredible bodies that are in my community and just highlighting them and showing them love, because I am so fortunate to have like powerhouses in my community. Like sometimes I'm blown away at the fact that these people, like we found each other. So you can definitely join the Wolf Gang email list. It's so much fun. And twice a month I give out moon readings via email as well. So you'll get like a ritual, you'll get crystal suggestions, herbal suggestions, and insight as to like what the moon wants you to work on during that full and new moon phase.
So much guidance. If you didn't know, which I don't know how you would know, but I'm going to tell you here first. Lotus is a projector if you're into human design. So the way she guides and speaks and leads is really incredible. So you'll feel right at home if you've enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'm a little mom brained. I'm sorry, but but I'm glad that we shared this time together, and you're like a true walking billboard for high vibe, but that's where we met. That's where all of these connections are coming from that you're sharing and blossoming. And that's really amazing to see.
Yes, I can agree more. My heart. I'm like so happy right now.
Yeah, this is so great. So anything else that you want to leave the listeners with?
I just want to give the insight to put yourself first in your life, right? I know that can sound very difficult. I know that can sound very selfish, but being self first allows you to give your absolute best to the people that you love. So in those moments when you're picking between like burning yourself out or taking a moment to take care of yourself, I encourage you and I support you energetically as well to take a moment to take a breath and take care of yourself. Because when you are in a state of overflow, everything you get from that is not only useful for you, but it's so nourishing and beneficial for the people in your community and the ones that you love. Mm-hmm. I would definitely just give that insight for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are a walking embodiment of that, of the self-love. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so beautiful being here.
Thank you so much for tuning in to 6 Degrees from Cannabis. If you connected with this episode, please share it with a friend who would benefit from hearing it too. Tap the subscribe button to be notified when the next 6 Degrees episode is released. You can find more information about holistic healing, the Follow Your Heart Oracle deck, and what I do by visiting toryrarick.com. If you message us on Instagram at the 6 Degrees from Cannabis, we'll be sure to message you back. Bliss be with you.